Points Podcast. I'm your host, A'layeah J, and I'm super excited because we have someone very special today. And she is a writer, producer, director, and founder of her own production company called Hollywood Africans. And her name is Nefertite Nguvu. Did I say it right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm always like, okay. I'm happy. I'm so happy to have you here today and just talk to you about your work, experiences, and then anything else that you would like to touch on as well.
I'm happy to be here. To be here. I'm proud of you. Yes. As we've been saying off air, we've known each other for so long, and I'm just really happy to see you grow and see all the work that you're doing as well. So thanks.
Yes, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. You were one of the first, I believe, female filmmakers that I've met in person at the time I was getting into film. At 17 when I won the Women in Media Cell Phone Cinema contest, but still, like, you were one of the first, and then actually working with you as a PA. So it's just full circle, and I love it. It feels good.
Yeah. Yes.
All right. So we're going to go right into the first question. What is it about filmmaking and the visual arts that drew you in?
That's a great question. When I was younger, I wanted to be like, I went to Performing Arts High School. I went to Arts High in Newark, New Jersey, and I studied theater there. And initially, I thought I wanted to be an actor. But then when I went on my first few like non-school related auditions, I was like, absolutely not. Mm-hmm. This is the life for me. But it was also around the time that like Spike Lee was making films. And I was really starting to catch that bug. And Newark is the home of the oldest Black film festival in the country, the Newark Black Film Festival. My mother took me to see Gordon Parks' film, The Learning Tree there. And I was just really bitten by the bug. And, you know, I was always a writer. I always wrote poetry and plays and things like that. And so things just started to come together for me. And I felt like I really just wanted to be behind the scenes. Like, I didn't want to be another actor auditioning for roles that, you know, didn't really reflect, you know, what I felt like the experience of a Black woman in this country was. So I was like, I want to be a part of changing that. I want to be able to change our narrative, you know what I mean? Really, instead of just, you know, waiting for opportunities to come my way, I wanted to create them for myself and for other Black artists. And so I sort of just landed on this idea of being a director and making films. I'd always been enamored, you know, with the cinema. So I was like, yeah, shoot my shot.
I like that because I feel like right now, you know, a lot of actors who are in the industry, they're going behind the scenes now as a director, as a producer.
As you should, yeah.
Exactly, because we're not seeing ourselves as much. I mean, now we are. I mean, it's 2023, but just the process and the years of the work, you know, that's being put in now, we're starting to see ourselves represented, but still have a lot more work to do. So I really, really love that because we need a lot more of that in the industry. And I don't care what nobody else says, because you know how they'll see us, you know, coming, and then there'll be another, you know, knockoff. But absolutely not. I love. I just love it overall. So thank you.
And the Black experience is so multifaceted. So my experience is different from your experience. So we both have the right to tell our story and
absolutely.
To for an audience what that experience feels like for our individual selves. You know, a writer that I really love, Toni Morrison, she said that she started writing her books because she wanted to read them, because the books that she wanted to read didn't exist. And I feel similarly about being a filmmaker and making the types of films that I make. Like, I want to see them, you know what I mean? And I want those experiences reflected. So
I love it. It's happening. My next question for you is this. You've directed some episodes for several different television productions, including Wu Tang, the most recent.
I love them.
Yeah. What'd you say?
I said I love them so much, and I loved working on that show.
I can tell. Yes, it's bleeding through the internet. No, I love it. And we're gonna touch on some of that. You did Power of Book 2, Flatbush Misdemeanors, Tales, and Bigger. So those are just to name a few. But really quick, what was it like to take on those episodes?
You know, coming from independent filmmaking, having my experience prior to directing and television had only been making my own work as an independent artist. And the role of a director in episodic television is different than the role of a director in an independent film. Like in an independent film, almost every decision, I mean, literally every decision is up to you as as the director of that film. And television, you have to be a lot more collaborative. You know what I mean? Like I'm directing from other people's scripts. I'm beholden to not only my artistic vision, but I really have a job of executing the writer's vision, of making the network happy, of, communicating and directing actors that I didn't choose, that, you know what I mean? It's, in episodic directing, the directors are the guest stars. Everyone else is the same. It's like the cast stays the same, the crew stays the same. You're the person, the stranger that comes in,
right,
every weeks and has to get to know this whole new set of people, whole new set of rules. You know what I mean? That is very different than independent filmmaking. But for me, I feel like in episodic directing, I've gotten to exercise a whole different muscle group that I would never have exercised as an independent filmmaker, because when I'm directing from my own script, there's a shorthand that I have because I wrote it. I knew what I wanted to see when I wrote it. But when you're directing someone else's script, you have to kind of get inside of their mind and marry what your vision is with what the writer's vision is, with what already exists, for the show. I mean, with a show like Wu Tang, it's different in that every episode sort of has its own vibe and feels different. But with a lot of shows, they want, a sense of uniformity between episodes, and the work that you do has to fit in with the work that has been done previously. And so the challenge for episodic directing is, how do I make my own individual voice come through, even though there are all these circumstances that I didn't choose, that are out of my control? How can I still make what I see come to life?
Right. Now, does it make it easier for you when you're a fan of a show? Like, if you're a fan of the show, you've seen the work, and you go in and it's like, is your mind in a different way because you're familiar with the work?
I don't know that it makes it easier, but it makes it so much fun.
Okay. Okay.
I have been, so I did a couple of shows that were new, like Flatbush Misdemeanors. I worked on season 1, so it was a new show, it was a new thing. So obviously I hadn't seen it previously, but working on a show like Ghost, I'm just like, I loved this show. I love these characters. It's Mary J. Blige,
right.
Smith, Michael Rainey Jr., people that you've seen for like years and years. So my first day on that set was very surreal. You know what I mean? It's people that, and it happens to all of us. You know what I mean? It's not, you don't ever get used to it. I'm just like, wow, that's Mary J. Blige.
Right. This is happening right now. Like,
the red state, Darius Love is on the other end of my mind. Crazy. What is happening? What is life right now?
Right. Yes. Especially when you see these people like from afar. So just to be in that, it's just, that's everything coming right back into God's way.
Yeah. And it's so much fun. And especially when you're able to really connect, with the cast, it does make it, sweet and special when it is a cast or it is a show, that you have connected with in the past or that you're a fan of. It just, it's even watching my name in the credits, and I was just like, oh my God, like it happened. Like I've seen these credits so many times. I've seen every episode of the show, seen every director's name. It's like, oh shit, that's my name. I did that.
Absolutely. It's such a proud moment, just to see that all the work, even prior to that, like all the work that you're doing outside of that, and then just to see that, I'm looking at it from your perspective, like, oh my gosh. So yeah, I love it though. Yeah, thank you so much for that response. And anybody who's watching, I really hope that you are taking in all of these nice nuggets, because you can definitely learn. Oh my God, I'm learning myself right now. My next question for you is, you pretty much answered it when the next question was, what's your process as a director? But being as though you answered that, I'll just go a little bit more into some questions about Wu Tang, so we could dive a little bit.
I can definitely speak to that, because I feel for episodic directing, one thing that I think is important, because everything moves so fast in episodic directing, like the schedule is so fast, there's so much work to get done in a day. So I would say like my strongest advice to anyone who is like to shot list in script order, because you're never going to shoot in script order, but if you shot list in script order, you can always be working backwards from the emotional intention of the work. You can always be working backwards from what the audience is supposed to feel at that moment. Because when you get in there, you're always under the gun with time. And so, you know, you can people try to pressure you into doing the quickest thing, but you have to be beholden to the story that you're trying to tell. And you know what I mean? And the responsibility you have as a director, as a filmmaker, as a storyteller. So it just helps so much to do that work in story order, so that when you're under the gun on set, you already have a plan. You already know what's happening. You already know where you are in the story. And so, yes, it may be quicker to hose it down. Else wants to do it, but it's like, no, this is where we are in the story. This is why we have to do multiple sizes of this. It's 3, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So just do yourself a favor and shot list in script order. It just helps so much. And for me, like I said, because I don't write the scripts I'm directing for television, I just read them over and over again until I feel like I understand what the emotional intention is of the work. That's really helpful too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And what you just said, do you find it, I don't want to say, I guess you could say, do you find it challenging when you're obviously directing episodes for a television show, where the networks, you know, the higher ups want to move quicker or want to do something, you know, else other than what your mindset was? How do you adjust to the busy life on set when it comes to obviously episodic direction?
Yeah, well, you know, you always know what your schedule is going to be for the day. That's never a surprise. And there are many production meetings in advance of shooting where you know, like, how much time you have to get a scene in the canon, like how many scenes you have to get done that day. So none of that is ever a surprise on set, you know, but what I have found, and I do work quickly. I have learned to work very quickly in television. Like my episodes always get done, you know, my Ghost episode came in early but you know, and that happened. I'm so used to independent filmmaking where you are, even in, you know, making your own things because you don't have a lot of money, you are short always, you know, time is, you know what I mean? So you have to quickly. And so I have found a method of working that is efficient for the time. But then what you find in episodic direct, which I have found is like, because I am fast, sometimes production will see an opportunity like, oh, we can save even more money if we get this even quicker than we're scheduled. Save this and roll this over to the, and it's just like, no.
Exactly.
12 hours, just like everybody else. Everybody calm down. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like, the thing with it is that oftentimes, you know, outside of the creators and the other creators that you're working with, you know, production is motivated to get things in under schedule and under budget, but you always have to be able to stand up for yourself and say, like, the quality, if it's going to have my name on it, I have to hold myself to my own standards. And that's, like, period. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, I've never, you know, you have to do what you have, you know, uphold your end of the bargain in terms of coming in on time, scenes done in the amount of time allotted to you. But at the same time, it's like you have to be able to resist that pressure to be beholden to everybody else's bottom line and what they're trying to do to save money for the next episode and this and that. Like, no. We are here. These actors deserve the time to get this scene right.
Absolutely.
We still have time on the clock. Everybody just calm down.
Oh, I love that, because it gets hard. I mean, I've seen it, you know, firsthand working as a PA. So just from the director standpoint and being in that chair, it's so much that happens and things change.
Yes.
Hour to hour, minute to minute. So being able to navigate that is honestly amazing.
There's a lot of pressure on you. And then, you know, my thing, what I try to do is protect the cast at all time. You know what I mean? So
absolutely.
I will never show it. You know what I mean? Like, I try to remain as zen as I can so that I can conduit for my cast so that they can feel safe, so that they don't feel stressed out. You know what I mean? That's really important to me, because I feel like that's honestly, in episodic directing, I feel like where I could see the strongest sort of imprint of my own voice is in the performances. Do you know what I mean? It's
Uh-huh.
in that, and that takes trust. That
Mm-hmm.
takes, a lot of things, and being stressed out on set and talking to people like you're stressed out is not going to get
Thank
that.
you. Thank you for saying that. Thank you. Because I have literally been saying this just for me, just working. I've been saying the same thing. And I love that you think that way because we need a lot more directors and producers thinking the same way. We can get this work done, but everybody has to be at a certain level in order to do that, especially like you just said, that Zen space. You have to bring it down a notch because it get crazy.
And having been, an actor in the past, for me, I feel like the actors have the hardest job on set because they have to be vulnerable in front of so many people. And it's like they at least deserve the respect of a peaceful space to do that in. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? These deserve the respect of like, good morning. How was your day? How did you sleep? Welcome back to set. All those things that let them know that you care about their human experience.
Absolutely. I love that. You are just amazing. Like
Oh,
you are such a kind, amazing person overall. So just work-wise, I can imagine everybody just loves you on set, every set you go to.
it's been good. I've made some friends, and I really do. Like, I fall in love with every cast that I work with. Some definitely more than others. Like, some just definitely stick to you. Also, it depends on the work that you're doing.
Right.
Obviously, doing dramatic work, there's much more of a bond, that you have with the actors. But
Mm-hmm.
yes, just like literally stay with you and you think about them and the work that you did together for sure.
Right. It's a family. You
Yeah.
guys, you create a family after a course of even 2 weeks, and then let alone a month, 2 months,
Yeah.
years.
You're seeing the same faces 12 hours a day, 5 days a week. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, you
Mm-hmm. That's
definitely,
a that
yeah.
it's amazing. No, amazing feeling. So
Mhm.
we'll dive deep into the Wu Tang related questions, and then we'll go into some more stuff in a bit.
Okay.
So the third and final season of Wu Tang, an American Saga, has aired earlier this month. Now,
Mhm.
what was it like directing Wu Tang?
My God. So the first, it's only they dropped three at it on the first week, and
Hmm.
then so the whole season isn't available yet. I think they're up to four
Okay.
now. But it was amazing. It was an amazing experience. I love the show so much. I feel like as far as Black dramas go, it is, literally, I feel like the most sophisticated Black drama that exists on television. Like, I love all of the creative leaps that they take. I think that cast is just exquisite,
Hmm.
It was literally such a joy and such an honor for me to work on that show. And it's the
Nice.
RZA. I mean, come on.
Right. Right. I know Wu Tang is a little, past, the time with me, before or whatever, but it's just the fact that you just had that opportunity, and I gotta watch. I already know it's gonna be amazing.
Wu Tang is forever, baby.
I
So let's
know.
start there.
Wu Tang is forever now. It is. It is. It is. It definitely is.
But it's a great story. It really is such a great hero's journey. It's like if you think about and if you look at their journey from where they started and what they created and what they brought forth into the world, it's so remarkable. And I love that it's entitled An American Saga because it truly is. It really is a saga, and it really is such a great uniquely American success story.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So with that question, what was the experience, like to be a part of something huge? You touched a little bit on it before, but is there anything else you want to add to that? This was huge.
Yeah, it was huge. I feel like my first Ghost definitely prepared me for that in the sense of like that show is, you know, has such a huge fan base. It
Mm-hmm.
has a big budget. It's like the highest budget show that I have worked on, and so that just really prepared me for just how things move. But I
Mm-hmm.
will tell you, like, it is on the bigger shows, it's a well-oiled machine. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
so much less stressful than working on a new show with a teeny tiny budget. You know what I mean? It's just like everybody knows what they're doing.
Yep.
Everybody knows the formula that works. You know what I mean? Everyone
Yeah.
has confidence in the show and their abilities. Do you know what I mean? Because sometimes you work on new shows and there's like network doesn't really want to tell the same story that the creators want to tell, and they're still trying to figure out writers' room issues on set. It's just, you know, it can be a lot. But for shows like bigger shows like this that have so much confidence in what it is, it really is a joy to work on.
Nice. I know that was, whoo, man. That's a lot. And you said that was your first production that you worked on with that type of budget, right?
Ghost was, and then the show.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. It's awesome. So you get to see the differences, like you just said, with how everything is ran. I mean, it should be the same technically, but I get it, you know, because it's higher budget. But so that brings me to my next question with you. You know, filming right now is really booming in New Jersey. I mean, technically, we're the home of film. You know, we are Hollywood. We're the original Hollywood. But the studio that was, you know, obviously right across from us, Wu Tang Soundstage. What was it like having production here in Kearny? Well, not even just in Kearny, but just production in Jersey in general.
You know, honestly, I'm a Jersey girl, so it was great to work in my home state. But I think beyond the working at Kearny Point, the days that we were out and we were in Newark, in Irvington, in places that I know so well, that, you know, like that to me was really wonderful because, you know, as an independent filmmaker, most of my things I had shot in New York because that's where my resources were, blah, blah, blah. That's were set. But to be able to come home and work in New Jersey was really lovely. It was really lovely. And I love that so many things are happening, you know, production wise in New Jersey. And like New York has to really figure out, like, a show has to have a ton of money to shoot, you know, in New York right now. And they really have to figure that out because I do feel like, you know, some of the things get sort of lost in translation when you're shooting a show that's supposed to be set in New York that isn't set in New York. You know, you can always, you know, a person who knows what New York looks like can always, you know what I mean?
It's like, that is not New York. You guys are somewhere in New Jersey. No, absolutely.
That aside, just for, you know, the hometown nature of it all, it was really lovely.
That's good. And especially, like you said, just being from Jersey and working in Jersey, I just personally feel like it's almost like, where have you been? You know, and I get it that New York has to, you know, figure out their way. But just for right now being here, I feel like it's just the best. Just for New Jersey. I mean, New York, they had it on lock for years. So it's time for us in New Jersey, you know, to kind of pick up that pace just a little bit, and then they'll figure it out the rest later.
Yeah. I would love to see more stories that are set in New Jersey, film in, you know what I mean? Because a lot of the things are supposed to be set other places, but I feel like it's a really great, like, New Jersey has some really interesting stories. I feel like some of my favorite storytellers tell New Jersey. I mean, The Sopranos was like one of the greatest television shows of television, which was a very New Jersey story. One of my favorite writers tells very interesting New Jersey stories, Juno Diaz. Like, there's just like New Jersey is a really, really interesting place. So I would like more storytelling about New Jersey happen.
Oh yeah. And do you see that happening like in the next 5 years? More and more stories being told in New Jersey? Or do you feel like...
Oh, I really hope so. You know, you can never predict, you know, what's going to happen, what shape the industry is going to take. But I really hope so.
Absolutely. So my next follow-up question to you is there anything else that you want to add from your experience working on Wu Tang?
What would I want to add? I mean, I would say, and I just like, I'm like just noticing the photos you have in the background.
Yes, wait. Yes. So you can see it just a little bit because I'm using the laptop, but the camera is showing it more. Yeah. I said, you know what? Wait a minute. I need something different. I was going to do the trailer, then I was going to do this. And I said, no, I'm going to take those pictures and put it into a collage.
I just absolutely adored that cast. You know, they're just so special. I mean, we all know RZA obviously knows how to put a group together.
Right.
I just feel like they're just such special humans, and they were also different in their approach to craft. So I felt like every day I was conducting like a really cool avant-garde band, because it's like they all just had such unique voices, such unique ways of expressing themselves. And it was just really a joy for me, like as a director. It was like they were really a dream come true for me as a director, because I really got to exercise new muscles, you know what I mean, to connect with them on a really different level. And, you know, both of the episodes that I directed have, you know, a lot of emotional things happening, which is, you know, my strength as a director, as a storyteller. So it was just really great, you know, to dig in with them and to create just really intimate portraits of, you know, their characters. And I just love them so much. They were just so wonderful. I can't
Yes. I know, right? And
stop
as
them.
and as you're talking, I feel like you were made to direct because now that I'm thinking of, I'm like, your work definitely reflects of that work. Like I see it. I can see the comparisons with just watching the clips and then just seeing what you know posted on Facebook. So it's making even me more excited to just check it out, because I have so many different shows that I'm trying to catch up on, but I have to. I'm only getting into that obviously because of you, but then also because of the storytelling and what's behind it as well.
Yeah, you should definitely catch up on it. I love the show so much. I think it's just so creative, and I just love their approach to stories. So yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for that. And congratulations again on everything, you know, that you have worked on, what you're doing, and what's to come.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So we're going to switch gears just a tad for these last couple questions. So you've directed individual films as well, you know, as a filmmaker. So how does this compare to directing episodic work? I mean, you did talk about it, but is there any specifics that, you know, anybody else watching, listening can learn, you know, from the differences of episodic work and then just directing independent films?
Yeah, well, I definitely think, like I said earlier, when you're an independent filmmaker, you are so beholden to your own voice and what it is that you have to say, what it is that you're trying to bring forth into the world, and your own singular creative vision. And episodic directing, you have to be very collaborative, you know. And for me, like even when I'm independent filmmaking, and I'm a very collaborative director. Like I am just always invested in the best idea, and that is not always my idea. You know what I mean? And that's why I always feel like when I'm working and when I'm putting a crew together, when I'm putting collaborators together, I want to work with the best of the best. I don't want to feel like I'm the smartest person in the room. I want to work with people who are much smarter, much more experienced,
Yes.
creative, who can bring other ideas to the table, because that's what's going to elevate, you know, the piece.
Yes.
And so, in independent filmmaking, you get to handpick all of those people. You know, in episodic directing, you don't. You know what I mean? You have to collaborate with, you know, who already exist.
Okay.
So that's, you know, that's the biggest difference. But again, as I said, it's like it forces you to exercise different muscles. You know what I mean? And it's like, as a director, as an artist with a voice, how is it that you can connect to the story that you're telling as an episodic director? And how is it that you feel like you can get your own voice across? You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And that's really important. I remember a friend of mine, when I first started episodic directing, was telling me that he felt like television directing really diminishes a director's voice. And he was like, more that. But then when I see the work that I've done in television, I feel so proud of it, because I feel like I'm still on my own shit. You know what I mean? Like I have been, like, I don't say yes to everything. But the projects that I have been a part of, I feel have been collaborative. You know what I mean? Have been the types of stories that I feel that I'm attracted to, that I like telling. You know what I mean? That I can really make an imprint upon them. Like even when I worked on Ghost, even though and also all the shows I've done are so different from one another.
Right.
Is obviously very different than Wu Tang, and they're both obviously very different than like Bigger and The Wonder. obviously.
Exactly. Completely different.
All of them. But I think what they all have in common is really great stories and really great characters. And that's what I'm attracted to. You know what I mean? And so genre doesn't matter. It can be a comedy, it can be a drama, but I'm just like, I'm attracted to character and I'm attracted to story. If I can connect to both of those things, I feel like I can get my voice across as well.
I love that.
What I feel like is a central part of my storytelling to the table. And to the extent that I, so like I said, in some of the shows, they have sort of a very, I don't want to say rigid, but a particular way visually of telling the story that, they want you to stick to. And I remember when I worked on Ghost, there were a couple of sort of like rules that were laid out for me that I did break and that did go into my directors, because they were like, shoot it, we got the time, shoot it,
right.
we to, enjoy this experience as well, but just be prepared, you might not see them,
Right.
But I was so surprised, like there were a couple of things that I did on my episode that I know very specifically broke some of the rules that they have been beholden to, but they stayed in, and I think that I know that they stayed in because they told the story. You know what I mean? Like they weren't just some things that were just I did because they were cool. I felt like this is the best way to get this moment across. You know what I mean?
I love it. Yes.
And so like there was like one thing I was like, wow, I know this, I'm never gonna see this again, so let me just love it now in my direction. But I was like so surprised when it aired how much it had stayed the same as the director's cut that I turned in. Wow. And again, that goes back to it's a great show that really has confidence in its own abilities and its audience. You know what I mean? And like, again, I wasn't making choices that had nothing to do with the story that I just wanted to be jazz hands and thought was cool. It was like, okay, you guys don't usually have characters break the fourth wall, but the script says we're supposed to feel this way when he's doing, and this is the way that I know the audience is going to connect with him, and it stayed in. And there were a couple of other choices that I made that were, things that Courtney, who I adored, told me are things that they usually do that stayed in. And I know that they stayed in because it told the story that they were trying to tell. And that's important.
Yeah. No,
you just story forward.
Yeah, I love that though. Sometimes you do have to bend just a little bit, and most times obviously it works, but I love the fact that with your work you make sure that it actually has meaning to it. Like you said, most people get lost in the sauce when it comes to being in the director's chair and, even being an AD or whatever the role is, being on set, and they get big, with their head like, oh, we're just going to do this. But I just love how you continuously stay grounded in the work, and also, keeping the actors first as well, because that gets lost in the sauce. It's just like, hey, your talent, get to set, we got to roll, let's go. And you're just like, oh, whoa.
Yeah.
How are you today? Are you good? I love it because we don't do that even outside of the entertainment world. It's like sometimes we need a little chit chat, just to see how our life is going. And then obviously with COVID, happening and, just family things and personal things, I just feel like when you come to work, you have to be greeted in a way that helps make you feel human, So I love it.
Absolutely. Because like I said, it's like you see these people more than you see your friends and family. And that goes for like they're seeing me more than they see their loved one. We're together 12 hours a day, 5 days a week. You know what I mean? So a good morning, welcome back to set. Did you sleep okay? Just goes so far, in terms of like human connection that you can make with them. But then also it's informing how you're going to start your day too.
Exactly.
Body, and they're like, I didn't sleep last night, but their eyes are open. I'm not coverage. You know what I mean? I know that you second to warm up, to ease into this. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So it's making a human connection, and it's also informing your day. Because if I mistake of not doing that, not checking in with an actor and just have in my head, okay, we're going to start with this, it's going to take longer to get that person's coverage because you're going to have to wait for them to warm up anyway.
Absolutely. This goes into my next question for you. You once said in an interview that your films are for artists. What do you bring from yourself when creating a film for your audience?
I said that.
Yes. No, listen, I know as a creative, sometimes you're just like, huh? No, but I really love that, like I love it. Like I love that so much.
It's so interesting. Yes, I definitely feel that way, but I feel it's multifaceted for me now since I'm assuming that's something that I said prior to working in this medium, because
Yes.
the gift that television has given me is, this connection with a much broader audience. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
now what I think I is so special is that, so when you watch my episode of Wu Tang, there are some things that probably only other filmmakers or other artists will be able to spot and be like, I see what you did there. That, you know what I mean?
Right.
But the flip side of that is that I feel like beyond that, beyond the ways in which I feel like, we excelled in terms of creating something that feels cinematic, that other filmmakers would be able to look at and other artists will be able to see. Mm-hmm. I feel like we created something that an audience can connect to. You know what I mean? Have an emotional connection to it, that you can connect with these characters in a different way because they're having all these moments of intimacy. You know what I mean? We're doing these really beautiful close-ups so you can be like right there with them inside of, whatever is happening with them at the moment. So I feel like the evolution of myself as an artist who's now working in this medium. And my friend Mahershala Ali had said this at one point. I remember reading in an interview of his, and he was saying that television allowed him to connect with an audience in a way. And I feel, and to be, make that thing. And I feel the same, you know what I mean? Because it's like, I feel that, I'm making my little indies and a very small number of people see them. But to be able to take my practice as an artist, as a filmmaker, and apply it to a much broader and much bigger medium, and still be able to connect, still be able, to use those cinematic influences and get them across and get these ideas, these larger cinematic ideas across in this medium. And on top of that, be able to connect with an audience, I feel like is so rewarding for sure.
I really actually love, your take on episodic direction, as well as, film direction. And I really love personally though, like as a creative, the fact that when you create episodic things, it also can create different audience, obviously, members, because people watch the norm, the huge, and then it turns into like, oh my God, did you see last week's episode? Where a film is obviously one piece. People, there's different generations, of course, but it creates more of an audience as you keep creating, and you just get you get so much more to that when you're doing that.
Absolutely, and I'm just like, for me as an independent filmmaker to work on a show like Ghost, like I'm sure way more people saw my episode of Ghost than have ever seen all of my independent films combined. You know what I mean?
Yes. And it's crazy how that works, but it's just like, what can you say? But I mean, I just absolutely love it because you're telling a story that has more episodes on top of that, and more people just is coming in. And then obviously social media, that's another topic that
Absolutely. Yeah. And I feel, like I said, it's like, so my episode of that show was not an episode, because, you can have like murders and all types of craziness in an episode. But my episode was small in the sense of like, it was about all these like power shifts that were happening. You know what I mean? And so it was really a chance for me to dig in. And, I loved where we landed with it, but I was feeling like, I don't know, is the audience going to be bored by it? Because it's like, not like nobody's getting
the excitement. Yeah.
But the audience response was so great to it. And it just made me feel so good. And I was like, go and read some of the comments, and people like, it felt like a movie. It was like, oh, good. Like, that is always my goal. You know what I mean? I feel like I try to create cinema no matter what. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whatever. I'm going to bring every tool in my toolbox as a filmmaker. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Whether or not I'm still trying to create cinema. That's period. You know what I mean?
Yes, period. That's what I'm talking about. But yeah, thank you, thank you. I'm really like enjoying this. I'm sitting back learning myself as you discuss these different things. My next question for you is, do you have any advice for newcomers, just about anything, programs, resources, anything just to help them get their start?
Honestly, the advice that I always give filmmakers, and I think the most important thing you can do as a filmmaker is to just make work, period.
Yep.
Because no matter how much you network, no matter who knows who, if you don't have a piece of work that you can share with them, you're not going to be able to get too far. You know what I mean? Especially not, I mean, not as a person of color.
Right, right. Another,
You know what I mean? And so I feel like, yes, apply for every single fellowship you can, apply for every grant that you can, intern where you can, PA where you can. But beyond all of that, keep making work. And I feel like we are at a point in which the medium has become so democratic. And like when I went to film school hundreds of thousands of years ago,
oh
we
no.
on film, and that's very expensive, so I actually switched my major from directing to screenwriting because I knew that I could not afford to make a thesis film for the $30,000 that it was guide.
Right.
So I switched to screenwriting. That's not the case anymore. You have an iPhone, you can make films with such little money now, and creativity is free. So I would just say keep creating, keep practicing. Like the more that you practice as a filmmaker, you get better. You know what I mean? Like I've seen myself grow from the first thing that I made until now, just because you practice, the more you do it, the stronger you become, the more you work those muscles, the more, you know what I mean? You just get,
Absolutely.
so just keep making films. And the second piece of that is create a community around the work that you're making. So whether or
I
not your
love
films get
that.
fans, have a screening at your local coffee shop, at your auntie's house, and create events around it so that your community, the people who are going to support your Kickstarter, the people who are going to support that Indiegogo or any other fundraising, can see like you're out there working hard and making films, and so that they will have that belief in you when it comes time to
Yep.
like, hey, help me do this.
Hey
They know.
y'all, I need some money. No, I love that. Thank you so much for adding that piece to it. Because I feel like a lot of times, just creatives in general, they lose the sense of community within that because they feel like they just want to hop over to the networks and, studios and all that stuff. And that's great, but you have to start from somewhere, and the foundation is within your community. So thank you for adding that.
I mean, before I was an episodic director, I was making films independently, and I mean, Pamela Morgan and her daughter Nafisa, they helped me build my first website for my film. You know what I mean? So it's just like Miss Morgan bought food to set for and fed my whole cast and crew one day in the morning. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, it takes a village, and
Absolutely.
so. And you can't just always be asked. You have to participate in your community and be able to give back to your community as well, and nurture that village so that they can nurture you in return.
I love it. You guys hear that? Make sure you nurture your community,
Yes.
Get with it and pick up that phone. If you can't get access to a camera at the moment, and if you want to start making work, use your phone. I absolutely love that. Thank you again for that. So I have two more questions for you, and my favorite one is the last one. But my second to last question for you is, what's your number one advice for young Black women with artistic aspirations?
Don't let anybody tell you what you can't do. Decide what you want to be and become that, period. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I feel there are just so many things set up in our society that make it difficult for us to pursue our artistic passions. But you have to, as much as you can, create a life for yourself that is not beholden to anyone else's ideas of what your life should be, but your own.
Right.
Decide what you want to be, and don't let anything stop you from becoming that. And it may take a decade or two, like it did me. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I graduated film school many, many moons ago. I just was on this journey, you know what I mean? And I
Hmm.
have so many other friends who I started this journey with who gave up, and not just filmmakers, other artists as well, you know, writers, um, who just stopped pursuing it because, you know, some obstacle was put in their way. But my thing is just like, and I've had many of those,
Hmm.
many of those, way more no's than I've had yeses in my career, way more people who tried to count me out. But at the end of the day, I had this unshakable belief in myself and in what I was trying to do, you know, and the larger ideas of what I was trying to do. And I felt, you know, it can be scary, you know,
Yeah.
not that sense of financial security, not having that job that you can count on and depend on. But it's just like, if you believe in yourself, just step forth on that path and don't let anything deter you from it.
Absolutely. Yes. It starts with you. It
Absolutely.
starts with you. Thank you. Yes, yes, yes.
Like, it's not always going to be easy. It's not always going to be screenings and photographs and Instagrammable moments. But if you love what you do, don't let anyone stop you from doing it.
Absolutely. And just piggybacking off of what you just said, a lot of times people get lost. I'm gonna just say creatives, just in this industry, get lost with the obstacles and the no's and all that good
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And that's when you create your art though. Because
Mm-hmm.
I'm learning that the pain, through the art is what makes art. Like we
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't have art if there was no stories, behind a lot of these things. You're telling stories to help other people, to help
Mm-hmm.
inspire others. So it's like you give
Mm-hmm.
up and then it's like you could have helped that one person, that might have been going through what you've been going through. So
Right.
that's like my number one thing I always talk about when I'm just discussing, just entertainment in general. So thank you again. That you just hitting everything. And I'm getting chills because it's just confirmation for, people just to get out there and just put their work out and don't care.
Yeah.
So yes.
I get so much gratification from talking to other artists or just talking to other people who have seen something that, you know, I may have directed and can say, oh, I remember when I felt exactly that way. Or when that happened, it just took me back to the time where this happened in my own life. And that to me is just so gratifying. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I will say this about, you know, pursuing your path as an artist. I remember when I got to a point, because I took a detour myself. Like I had to get me a real job because I had rent to pay in Brooklyn. I couldn't take an unpaid internship like some of my classmates from SBA. And so I took like this 10-year detour. I was just like working 9 to 5s, and I was, you know, had the financial stability that I felt like I needed at the time. And I just remember I got to this point and I had to ask myself, like, what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. Was I going to get back on the path of my purpose? And I just remember having this conversation with myself. And at the end of it, I got to the point where I was like, okay, I can live with the trying and failing, right? Because nothing is
Mhm.
guaranteed.
Right.
But I don't want to get to the end of my life and wonder what would have happened if I had tried.
Yes.
And so I was like, fuck it, here we go. Oh God, we're gonna shoot our shot.
Yep. Just do it. Like, oh my gosh. No, absolutely. I just know I love that. So everybody that's watching this, again, I'm going to reiterate, please just do it. And you're hearing it from one of the best. So you gotta do it. My last question. Oh my God, I love this question so, so, so much. If you can give a piece of advice to your future self, 10 years from now, 20 years, 30, whatever have you, what advice would you give?
That's a tough one because I'm just like, you know, I don't know what the future holds. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I know into like my young self, to my future self.
And that's why I love this
Yeah.
question.
I think when I just, if I think about myself and my future, I just would hope that I just can infuse as much joy as possible in my life. And so I think that that would be my advice to my future self, is just find the joy, you know, just find the joy and to, you know, just stay on that path, you know, of joy. And I would say that, like, even in my like toughest moments along this path, I'm just like, I would not trade this journey for anything. You know what I mean? Like, I feel it's like when you create something yourself that was like of your own mind, of your own idea, and you can see it from its inception to completion, that is such deep joy, such deep gratification. And then to add to that, that it can bring other people joy, that it can, you know, spark this intellectual curiosity in others, or spark this like emotional, you know, thing for other people. Like, it brings me so much joy. There's just so much power in the arts and in our ability to connect with other people. And so I would just say that to my future self is just like, just always be married to joy, you know?
Right. Yes. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for coming on today and sharing those wonderful gems. And I am praying that each and every one of you watching takes away, you know, at least something, whether you're into the entertainment industry or not. So, again, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so proud of you.
Yes, thank you.
It's 10 years in, so I'm like so excited to see where you are. Now.
Yes. No, we definitely have a lot of catching up to do. Most definitely. All right, guys. This has been the Studio at Kearny Point Podcast, and we'll see you on the next episode.